Hi there, good morning. Today is Sunday, October the 11th, 2020. I'm finally coming to the end of Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene. I read chapter 12, Nice Guys Finish First, which is a long description and explanation of the prisoner's dilemma. It talks about where you have two people that are facing the dilemma whether they should cooperate with the police or not to turn in their partner, whether they'll benefit in the long run or if they should both keep quiet and not say anything and then have a better outcome. So it's kind of like a thought experiment. The two people, one with the banker, one option to cooperate, and one is, he calls, defection. And so the whole chapter is basically talking about whether this could be a evolutionarily stable strategy or not. And it's kind of very academic, very uninteresting, very boring, unfortunately, with its charts for reward and payoff and things like that. So it doesn't really contribute to his argument, and it doesn't really contribute to the book. Chapter 13, The Long Reach of the Gene. It's interesting because he says here that an uneasy tension disturbs the heart of the selfish gene theory, right? We have these DNA replicators. On the other hand, we look at the individual bodies themselves, and each one is obviously a coherent, integrated, immensely complicated machine with a conspicuous unity of purpose. And so he says he almost gives up on his argument, and he essentially gives up on the book because he says, how shall we resolve the paradox of two ways of looking at life? His way, they're just gene machines, and the other way is these individual. I mean, the chapter where he discusses the ant colonies and how complex they are is phenomenal, right? He's saying that the design of, and he actually uses the word design very shortly, I'll mention, is so unique and complex that the whole idea of just gene survival machines doesn't make any sense. And so he says, my own attempt to resolve this paradox, spelled out in the extended Phenotype, the book that more than anything else I have achieved in my professional life, is my pride and joy. So he says, this book is pretty much a wash. I give up. I can't, reconcile these two competing ideas. So he says, I've spelled it out in the extended Phenotype. This is pride and joy. This chapter is a brief distillation of a few of the themes in that book, but really I'd almost rather you stop reading now and switch to the extended Phenotype. So he says, I give up on this book. You might as well throw it out and move to my other book, which is really much better. So I may take him up on that, and just stop reading here. But I've only got one chapter left, so I might as well look into it. But it's interesting because he goes on to say, I'm going to find it here for you. It might take me a little bit of time, which is right here. He talks about the caddis that builds its own house out of stones and wraps itself in its own constructed little house. This caddis creature, it's some kind of creature that lives in the bottom of rivers or something. It says the eye and elbow joint are far more complicated and designed than the house. See, he confesses to the magnificence and beauty of intelligent design. And this is what Michael Behe talked about in his book, Darwin's Black Box, and also in The Edge of Evolution, how at the molecular level, there is such blatant evidence for complex design that any kind of idea of some kind of gradual, gradual evolutionary development doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And in fact, here, he talks about how complex they are. He said, imagine if a dolphin was able to weave large intricately meshed fishing nets, 20 dolphin lengths in diameter. Imagine how spectacular that would be if a dolphin could make these huge fishing nets in the ocean. We'd be really impressed and would say, wow, that must be some kind of intelligence in there. But spiders do it, and we make no mention of it. So his reasoning here is contradictory, and a lot of his reasoning is circular as well. So he goes right back into his thing. He says, let's get right back to the main argument. He says, the caddis house, that creature that builds its own house, nobody could doubt, is an adaptation evolved by Darwinian selection. He goes right back into his presumptuous argument, which is just pulled out of thin air. It just says, wow, this spectacular individual creative ability that we see in animals just had to evolve that way. In fact, there's one part in the book where he says the birds that were able to create these new songs in one generation, he says, well, what does that tell us? Must have been a lot of birds that died as they were trying to get the right song, evolutionary over time. It doesn't even make any sense. This whole book doesn't even make sense. It's a circular, contradictory argument that defeats itself at every turn. So it's pretty sad. I'm sad that someone would spend so much time and effort and so much wordplay and so much unnecessary verbiage to promote something which is dead in the water from the get-go. And he even admits it in the final chapter. He says, well, you might as well forget this book and just move on to my other book because it's much better. Now, do I really trust that the extended Phenotype is going to be any better? I don't. Will I read the extended Phenotype? Now that I've invested so much time, I may have to. But if you're somebody out there, if you're a student and you're studying and you're forced to study Dawkins, I hope that you'll have a chance to go through the videos that I've prepared on these 13 chapters, and that you can just speed through them, put them on double speed, and maybe some of the points that I picked out, you'll also be able to pick out and say, oh yes, this is not adding up here. This doesn't make for a solid argument at all of what he's trying to say about the gene replicating machine and how these he comes to the conclusion, well, the only thing we can say about life is that it's a replicating life, which is a tautology. It's not saying anything. It's like saying the only thing we can say about life is that it's here, it exists. Yeah, and then write a book about circular arguments and contradictory statements. So I feel very disappointed. As far as I know, Richard Dawkins is still alive. So in that sense, I pray for him. I pray and ask God that he would reveal himself to him. Maybe in his later years, he'll have some type of direct divine experience so that his eyes would be open and he'd realize at the core of his being that, oh yeah, that's it, all makes sense. God does exist. God is in control. God does control every single molecule. I see it now. And I pray that he could have that experience, because it is a very comforting, mind-opening, mind-expanding experience when you know that God is in control of everything. Thank you, Richard Dawkins, for your contribution to the reading material of humanity, if you want to call it that. And I pray that whatever it is you're working on now in your late years, that you would be blessed in all that you do, and that you would be able to contribute to the benefit of humanity. Don't forget, I'm not letting you off the hook. There's a lot of stuff in here that can be taken out of context and used to promote things like eugenics, things like unfeeling, heartless attitudes towards the human race, the human animal. Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you. By the way, if anybody sees this and they want me to do a review on a particular book that they find interesting, let me know and I'll pick up a copy and I'll check it out. I hope you have a blessed day. Enjoy this beautiful Sunday. And whenever you're watching this, it's probably not going to be Sunday. Only got about a 1 in 7 chance of that being Sunday. But yeah, it's all good. That was a good experiment. So yeah, I'm finished. And I can move on to something else. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day. Take care now. Bye-bye.